Welcome back to Dying Out Loud. Today, my guest is my good friend, Jaime O'Brien. This episode will celebrate a friendship that has lasted nearly 3 decades. From the first time that we collaborated and worked together almost 30 years ago to reuniting over the course of the last couple of years as peers in executive coaching and organizational development, our story is one of evolution, loyalty, and meaningful reconnection. With both laughter and reflection, we're going to explore our bond and how it has helped shape our personal and professional lives. Jaime, welcome to the show and thanks for joining me.
Of course, it's an honor to be able to join you for this, Kris. You're a great pal, and as you said, it's been a long time.
It has been. When I was looking at notes and preparing for this conversation, I went back through my calendar and I'm like, Jesus, it's almost been 3 decades that we have known each other, which officially makes this the longest gay relationship that I've ever had. And I'm so glad that it is with a friend that has really stood the test of time with me like you have. It's interesting. When we met each other, we were working together, and it definitely was an interesting time to be at the company that we were at the time. And I know that obviously we've gone through we've gone through 3 different companies together before our paths kind of split and went in opposite directions. And it's been so awesome to see how not only we've been able to reconnect over the course of the last decade whenever you bought your home, but more recently in the last couple of years in this new coaching and OD space. It's really interesting how our paths they were together, they were apart, they've come back together. And I think this is such a great place to go into for you as you launch your own business, and for myself as I plug along and still try to make the most out of life. I'd love to know, like, from your perspective, what do you think has helped us stay in touch even after we've moved on?
That's a great question, because to your point, I'm pretty sure it was the year 2000 you and I first met. So right at 25 years. And I think that you say it well around there were times where we were more strongly connected and we're seeing each other talking with great frequency, and then times where there wasn't. But through that, it's as though nothing really ever changed every time we reconnected. And so for me, I think it's simply the types of people you and I both are. For some reason, we've always just clicked. We've always just gotten along. We have similar views of the world, of life, the way we honor life too. Some of my past as well that aligns with the journey that you've been on recently. And so I think it's the respect that we have for one another that leads to the admiration that we have for each other. I know, at least on my part, I could say that. And that's what makes it okay when we have times where we don't connect as often to times that we do. Because I was thinking of this before jumping on the recording, was we met back in the early 2000s, the year 2000, if I'm remembering correctly. And there were a couple of jobs there, that one where we met, but obviously you recruited me along. And then when I moved to LA for a few years, and then we reconnected when I moved back, of course, and I was working for you again. And then weren't connected quite as strongly until, like you said, throughout the years when we were both in Kansas City. I can't even remember how long it was, but in 2014, when I bought my house, it's like, then you're my realtor, not just my friend. And it's like, then all the way to now, because that was now 11 years ago. And it's just funny to realize we've grown up together in a lot of ways, which has been the interesting thing to think about, because I was young. I mean, I was 20 when you and I met, maybe 19. And yeah, now look at us.
It is so interesting. And I love that you mentioned that we grew up together, because to your point, I was about 10 years older than you at that time. And I do feel like our journey of growth and just evolution as people has been so aligned throughout that time period. It's very interesting that has been the case. And to your other point you made about respect, and I absolutely feel the same way. And I think that's one of the reasons why, when I knew I had opportunities, that I wanted to share them with you, because the genuine respect that we had for each other, the trust that we had for each other. I think that kind of builds a foundation for success, regardless of the role that you're playing or the company that you work for. And I was so certain in my thoughts that Jaime comes on board, he's going to own this and he'll do an excellent job of this. And that's going to free me up to grow or expand as well. And it has been a really enjoyable journey. And then those moments where we've dipped back into each other's lives, like whenever you were purchasing your house, that it was so great to get to reconnect at that point in time. And I feel like in those moments that we were able to spend together, we caught up on all of that missed opportunity or missed space. And I think that's one of the really cool things about the way that our roads have bumped back into each other again more recently, in yet a third different really atmosphere, this one surrounding a mutual passion for coaching and for helping other folks. When you think about those early days of working together, and we've had a lot of evolution in the types of work that we've done together, what stood out to you about our working relationship back then?
I thought about this a few days ago, and I have a very specific example for you that I wanted to share because honestly, it's not something I really put together until I was reflecting recently. And I tend to miss opportunities like that and really processing things. It's an observation I've made of myself over the years because I just move from one thing to the next often. So I don't know if you remember this. So this will be a good test of your memory, actually, Kris.
Perfect.
So way back when we were working at Sunglass, after we'd gotten to know each other a little while, you were looking for a manager to take on a location. And do you remember this conversation around? Okay. And so what I really reflected on was you were probably the first leader I ever worked for who enabled me to do something that was very authentically myself and actually praised, listened, and rewarded what it is that I brought to the table. Because you were looking for somebody to staff the town center location. I was already out in Odessa, and I brought to you the suggestion of what if you gave me the opportunity to run both? We already do this multi-store manager thing in some other markets and other situations. And I'll be honest, selfishly, I wanted more money. I wanted to be able to move up. I was looking for promotions. Like I was that eager 20-year-old, thought that I could rule the world, but I know better now. But what I thought about in reflecting on that was that's the first time I've ever brought somebody a suggestion who was a leader of mine, where they actually said, you know what, that's a great idea. And that's something I'm going to look into. Let me get back to you on this. I'm really glad you brought this up. And it's a suggestion that could work. And it taught me something that I've carried through. I think it's the first time I was ever empowered to really understand that I have good ideas and creative solutions or thinking a little bit differently than others would, where somebody may just say, we need to backfill this role. Do you know anybody? It's just, we need a body for a location. That isn't how you looked at it at all. You listened. And that's what it taught me is I need to be able to bring solutions and ideas. And so I look back at that as the first moment where I ever did that, where there's any substantial result that came from it. And it taught me to lean into that part of myself because I think about who I am today and the things that I value and the things I coach other people on and have for years is stop waiting for people to ask you to do something. If you have an idea or if you want something for yourself, find a solution, make a recommendation, and make sure it's something that's thoughtful and it's something that would work. And so that's what I reflected on over the past couple of days after you invited me to do this was that's the first time that happened for me. And it's then been this through line, this red thread through the rest of my life and my professional journey. And I credit that to you. So that's the thing that I remember in the most salient fashion. You're welcome. Most salient fashion that I remember just that was such a key thing, aside from all the fun times. So we get fun times.
We're getting to those. We're getting to those. I definitely acknowledge that and appreciate that very much because you often, I don't know if everyone does this or not, but I often wonder, especially for the people that I consider among my circle of supporters, folks that have rooted for me throughout life, I often wonder what was it that, that made it every time I reached out, or the times that you were prompted to reach out, like what made you want to do that and stay engaged and keep trucking down this road of life and friendship and working relationships? It's definitely, I feel like, to your point, that it's been something that's a red thread. One of the things I think that we share probably so much in common is that has been a red thread through my life as well. I've often been the person, maybe with the loudest voice, but perhaps with the least amount of acknowledgement sometimes at those tables whenever you bring an idea. And I knew that whenever I was fortunate enough to start leading or managing other folks, that I really wanted to make sure that everyone felt like they had a table or seat at the table where they could sit down, show up authentically, and share their thoughts and opinions. And certainly, if there are strategies that we thought we could embrace and be successful in, why wouldn't we want to give those a try? So I love that we both shared that same thread through our careers. I'm
Yeah, I think
curious.
that's one of the things we align on very strongly. And I think that leads back to the respect we have for each other, doesn't it?
Most definitely, most definitely. I wonder if I've thought about this a little bit, but after you left, like I think it was probably Sunflower was the last place that we worked together. Whenever you left that position, and I think we might have both left it very close to each other. Did you ever think that this would be like where we would find ourselves 20-ish, 5 years later?
No, not at all. I mean, yeah, because that was way back. What, you left in '06. I was '07. Because, yeah, just a couple of months there at the end of the year to the beginning of the year. I remember that. Yeah, no, I did not, because I left Sunflower on unhappy terms. We'll leave it at that. Primarily because you weren't the person there anymore. That certainly had a lot to do with it. But then since, I always had this penchant for a knack for training, because I look at it very much as translating things for people. And that's something I know you look at it the same way also. I don't know that we ever explicitly talked about that, but through observation, you mentored and taught me a lot. And that was something that I picked up. Again, it's something that it worked easily for me thinking of it in such simple terms. And then when I was given an opportunity to do it, and then that led into a career within HR and talent and organizational development. And it's so funny when I remember years ago, well, not that many years ago, but a few years ago, when I saw that you had that new job title announcement on LinkedIn at Gale. And I remember, because I did not reach out to you in that moment and say, how the heck did you make this move? I should have. But it was one of those, I remember noticing it, thinking, okay, this is entertaining. Kris and I are both started out in sales and marketing worlds, but because of our preference for helping and support to grow people, we've just found our way into this where, had we known this about ourselves with such clarity, maybe when we were younger, it may have been a career path we would have figured out a lot sooner. Because,
That is so true.
right, like we just happened our way into this, and we had organizations that had opportunities for us, and it was something that just naturally happened. I think back to my most recent corporate job, a bunch of the folks that I worked with, they studied industrial and organization psychology. And it was something they were clear on from the time they started school. Whereas I look back 25 years ago, that was not something I had the clarity of understanding. I don't even know to what degree that was known and existed. But it's funny how, again, you and I both went that same path of thinking sales and marketing and all of these things were the thing that we're going to lead into because it's what worked for us. And we find ourselves in completely different spaces in non-revenue generating roles and organizations that still somehow manage to add a whole crap ton of value.
Absolutely. I think that is such an interesting observation too. It speaks to both of our abilities to look for opportunity regardless of where we're at. Obviously, to show up every day doing your best work because that's how you get these ancillary opportunities that might lead you into a new career path. And certainly from the perspective of ending up back here, I also thought after I knew that I was going to be moving into this space, I'm like, that's certainly interesting because this is where Jaime has been. And I even remember whenever we connected after I moved into this role, we established, hey, this is a great connect for us. We should start touching base every month and just sharing what we're learning and what we're working on. And I think those conversations have even come to now we have our regular monthly conversation that it's just you and I. And then we also have our Kansas City organizational development mastermind group that we're both a part of. And we're also both a part of that steering committee. So there are months now where we actually have a touch base up to 3 times a month. And honestly, I never thought we would find a way back to that. And that has been such an awesome experience. And again, I wouldn't even have known about the KC Mastermind. It's something that you built with another one of the folks that are part of the group, and you introduced me to that. So it has been one of the more valuable organizations that I've been a part of, especially in this stage of my life. And I've learned so much from that group of folks. So you made that possible. So I thank you for creating that opportunity and then inviting me to take part in it.
Of course. No, it's my pleasure. I'm just pleased that you were able to be a part of that. And the fact that I hadn't thought of that until, what, a year ago? Shame on me.
Better late than never. Better late than never. Absolutely.
It's true.
All right. We've spent almost 15 minutes talking about work. We've also had a lot of fun together. We got the ability to travel to some of the most random places in the United States.
Yes, we did.
We got to be on hand at 5 a.m. as fishing boats that were branded in our clients' logos took out onto the lake to catch the largest bass of the day. And we've even had some crazy late night adventures that ended up with both of us going off in our own taxis in separate directions to land on the doorstep of our parents' homes. We've absolutely shared some things. When you think about all of those memories, whether they were for work or outside of work, is there anything that stands out that years from now you'll look back and it's going to make you laugh out loud or put a big smile on your face?
Oh, God. Okay. Trying to pick just a few might be difficult, actually, because there were a lot, to your point. Yes, there were a lot, because when we were doing the stuff for FLW through Sunflower, that was... What a weird job. Anytime I try to describe that one to people and just the whole context of it, they start laughing or just getting this completely surprised face. You did what? And there's an organization that exists for this, and it's like NASCAR for bass fishermen. And I'm trying to explain the whole thing to people, but we had so much fun doing that. That was such an odd job, but it was so much fun at the same time. Like you said, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, be down at the dock at 5. Be out of there, 6:30, go back, sleep, and then, noon, 1 o'clock, get back over to the fun zone and whatever Walmart parking lot we need to show up at, put things together, wait for everybody to roll in, wait for weigh-in, and then work there for the next 4 hours. It was just like, and then go out with the whole crew at night, go out and have a couple of drinks, grab dinner, whatever it is that you're doing, stay up way too late sometimes. Yeah, try to get some sleep and then do it all over again the next day, because I don't even remember how many days in a row those things lasted. I genuinely don't remember. We just had so much fun in that. But there is also one that popped into my mind a couple of days ago, specifically because I want to give you a different taxi story that I don't know if you
perfect.
Remember. So do you remember when we were working doing the Xbox stuff, and we were in San Diego at the Hotel Del?
Oh, I know exactly where you're going with this. I remember this story vividly.
Yes,
please continue. Please.
I figured that this will actually be a good test to see if my recollection is accurate and vice versa. Like between the two of us, hopefully we have the whole memory, because who knows, maybe I remember something in a distorted fashion. But I remember one night we went out and we were in the gasoline district in San Diego, and we were having ourselves a grand old time. We were with Mason. I don't even remember his last name. What was Mason's last name?
Ice.
Thank you. Yeah. So he, if I'm remembering correctly, was also not drinking. So he was sober. Am I remembering that correctly? Because you and I were not.
Believe so. I do believe so.
I was like, because I feel like that's what puts the icing on the story. Just out on a dance floor, having a good time, and he decides just to make a quick jump onto the floor, whacks his head on a metal bar that he's trying to swing under. Again, stone sober. So if anybody should have had the perilous accident, it should have been you or me. And I remember that just because that was funny, and then having to rush him to the ER. But I also remember the panic you had because of the responsibility you. And I'm laughing at this because I know where it comes from. Of you just having such deep concern for someone else, and just, oh my God, how did I let this happen? When it just was a silly, random accident, of course, that could have happened to anybody in any circumstance at any time. But having to rush him to the ER, you and I getting there, sitting and waiting for him to get stitched up and sent back out. Did he get stitches or was it? I don't remember now.
He
But I know
did
he
get
busted his forehead.
stitches, and he still has a Harry Potter-like scar dead center in his forehead. And yes, so he has a lasting memory of that episode. And every time I see his face, nowadays it's just in a picture, probably on LinkedIn, but I see that scar and I think that scar is my fault.
But that scar was not your fault. It was just a random.
In that moment, it totally
accident of
felt like it
yours.
was.
But see, that's what I remember is the cab ride to the ER. We had to grab a cab outside. And I remember you just fretting. It was bleeding a good amount, but it wasn't life-threatening. But to look at you, I wouldn't have known that it wasn't life-threatening because you were doing everything you could and trying to stop the bleeding and just panicking. But again, it's funny, but it's indicative of how much you care about other people. And so I was just thinking about that a couple of days ago. I'd forgotten about that. And thank you for reaffirming that my memory hasn't stopped servicing well. Like I do remember it clearly that I'm not making any of that.
Yes, you do. It's funny because whenever I first referenced taxi rides, that was not the taxi ride. You know exactly the taxi ride that I was thinking about, the one that I put you in on the way to your mom and dad's house. And then I took myself carefully home as well. But this particular taxi ride, I think this was long before I developed the skill to not let people see you sweat because it was written all over my face. Oh my God. My career is over now. I have contributed to the delinquency of one of my employees. And yeah, at least we can laugh about it now. That's the best part.
Oh, we can. Well, but at the time that taxi story happened, you weren't my boss. I was just visiting from LA. It was over Easter.
That's
if
right.
I remember correctly.
That's right. You hadn't even come to work there yet.
Nope. So see, you had nothing to be lost in terms of any of your professional concerns. So
that's right. Oh, jeez. That was exactly, you even caught me off guard because while I do recall that story vividly, I actually forgot that you were able to be a part of that particular, I knew that you were a part of that team eventually as well. And yeah, it's so interesting that you share that horror because that memory lives vividly in my head. Of course, the only thing I can see is the blood. What I felt like at the time was gushing, and I'm sure it probably wasn't. It was like the panic in me setting in. But wow, I think that just really brings everything full circle for me is the connection with that story as well. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that definitely was. I feel like we probably could fill up probably 8 more hours of sharing those stories, but
easily.
Every episode, I take a little chunk of time just to share a moment of gratitude and appreciation and love. And this episode is no different. So if you wouldn't mind bearing with me, I'm actually going to read something to you because I want to make sure that I've captured all of the sentiment that I wanted to be able to capture. And it's easier I found to read these as if I was reading you a letter that I wrote you. So if you'll bear with me for just a few minutes.
Of course.
Jaime, our story is one that is really hard to describe because not only does it span time, it also spans geography, careers, clearly wild late night taxi rides, and grief. But at the heart of all of that, there's always been consistency. You have been a constant. From that first time we worked together decades ago to the coaching conversations that we share today, you've always shown up with the same openness, curiosity, kindness, and heart. Really, you've taught me the value of staying connected, even when paths diverge. You've shown me that time doesn't have to dilute friendship, it can actually make it stronger. And you've reminded me that some of the best relationships aren't just built in the boardroom, but on bar stools, in cabs, and over years and years of staying in touch. Today, our conversations feel a little like coming home, although much wiser, because they're familiar and they're affirming. I'm so proud to know you, and I'm a better person because of you. And I'm so grateful that our paths continue to weave back together again and again. I sincerely thank you for every laugh, every check in, and every reminder that friendship, whenever nurtured, only gets stronger with time. Thank you for being a constant source of goodness, positive energy, and light in my life.
Thank you. Okay, let's not cry.
Yeah.
But Kris, thank you. That's the kindest, most genuine. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I can't top that. I don't know how to say anything other than
I don't want
ditto,
you
dude.
to. This is my moment, sir. This is my moment. You don't have to
Yes,
top
it is.
I would love to, however, give you a few minutes if there's any message based on anything you can draw from the decades of friendship that we've shared that you might impart to the folks that might be listening today.
That's a great question. So much. Okay, let me think, put my thoughts together. I'm going to echo some of what it is that you just said. The thing that I find interesting about human relationships, and ours is such a good example of this, I think, to your point you just made, that it doesn't matter how the ebbs and flows go over the years in terms of the type of connection, the level of closeness you may have at one time versus another. They, the thing that's gratifying when you have great friendship and people that you really care about, that everybody should always think about, is don't put off reconnecting with somebody. Don't think that it's been too long, that it's been X number of years, they've moved on, they've got another group of friends, or what do we really have in common, or any of those doubts people might get. You and I are a testament to that, because when you really truly care about someone else, there's no time like the present, and it's never too late to just reconnect. And if there's a relationship there that's worth having, it'll be easy. And I think that's something that I'd always encourage everyone to think about, because I know too many people who talk about friends that have come and gone, and they're okay letting go of those friendships. And I always think to myself, some friendship is just for a season, but a friendship like ours has been for a multitude of seasons. Back to the we grew up together. That's something you don't get to say with a lot of friends. That you really have known them for years and years. It's not something to be taken lightly, is it? That's something I would want everyone to always remember and think about. If somebody truly matters to you, don't take it lightly. Make sure they know, as you just did for me, and I will not so eloquently be able to state, because I did not prepare properly for that, of how much you mean to me, and the fact that, again, what started out as a friendship where we got along well personally, but you were my boss, and it was more of a mentorship. But it evolved because of the level of respect you and I have for each other. When you can find people like that in your life, those are the people you hold on to very tightly. And it doesn't mean every day you're talking all the time, but it does mean that you never let it go. Okay, I'm going to ramble if I continue going at
I
this point.
love
So
that.
stop.
That is such a powerful thing that you've shared there. It is so important to not let those things go. And newsflash, anyone on either side of a relationship has the ability to do that. Don't wait for someone else to do it. Take the first step.
Yep.
Sometimes the best relationships in life, folks, they're not the loudest or the most obvious. They are the ones that keep showing up across decades, across life changes, and across all of those seasons of growth, no matter how uncomfortable. Jaime and I
Yep.
are proof that when you keep showing up for each other, both personally and professionally, you create something extra special and rare. So today, my challenge to you is if someone has been a part of your story for longer than you've realized or acknowledged, you should reach out to them. If you've been sitting back waiting for them to reach out to you, this is me telling you, you can do the same.
Do it.
Get them on the phone, get them on FaceTime, and tell them that they matter. And do that today. I'm your host, Kris Saim. My guest was Jaime O'Brien. And until the next episode, I hope you all will take some time and say the damn thing today.